Um, so one of the things that has come up in the comments, right, as people have been listening in and watching my videos, is how am I able to appreciate something if I can't see it or see it as well as other people? And the way I would answer that is using other senses, right? So one of your sense is to be able to see, right? It's your vision, right? And though I can see a little bit, other senses are in tune, right? So maybe your smell, right? So maybe there's something about this place that smells like fresh, right? Or it smells beautiful, it's like maybe there's lots of flowers around, or it's something different and unique, or maybe there's somebody cooking in the distance, and the smells are, like taking over the air and you get a whiff of it. I think that could be a form of beauty, right? Or listening to something, right? Listening to birds, right? People don't pay attention. Like if you really sit down and just like in complete silence, there's a lot of sounds out there. There's a lot of beautiful, like nature songs, birds, maybe people talking in the distance, maybe the wind blowing through the trees, like it's really incredible to be able to in tune, be in tune with your other senses, right? Or even touching, right? Like feeling something different, like whether the surface is rough or maybe it's really smooth, or it's you kind of get a feel like. So myself and blind people in general tend to admire things and appreciate things using different different senses. So just a different way of admiring beauty and being in tune with. So one thing that I love doing, if you haven't figured out by now, is traveling, right? And getting to know cultures. So when I talked about my previous adventure, my visionless adventure in Petra, and I was sitting there with a Bedouin girl and her sister, and we were drinking tea, and we were just having such a great conversation, right? And I loved it because I was learning from her, right? She accepted me into her space, right? And she treated me as any individual, and I kind of became part of that world, right? So I was very focused on my surroundings, right? Like her lifestyle, right? What, like her little shop and the people that come by, and the tea and the smell of the tea and the sounds of like the donkeys that were tied to the post at the time. And so I started appreciating something very different, something very unique, just by sitting there and just by engaging in conversation and just learning and trying to interact with someone who, although we communicate a little bit in Arabic and English, there was also that challenge because there were differences in how we spoke the language, but really being in tune and focused on what was being said rather than how it was being said. So while being in Petra, so it's this beautiful place that was carved. It was a town that was carved from rock. And so there used to be a lot of commuting of, using camels and donkeys and, different animals. And now they use those animals as a way to attract tourists, right? But if I want, as I was climbing the rocks and I was climbing the cliffs, right? The sound as the donkeys passed me, or the camels, for example, the echoes, right? The echoes through the rocks that traveled, through the holes and, above the rocks and down the mountain were just incredible. Like, it's almost like it put me like hundreds of years back. Like I could picture what it was like, when it was like this vibrant city and like there was trade going on and there was people living there and like just planting their things and growing, like having, like different agriculture there, or moving, like maybe moving through cars. Like I could actually imagine what it was like, and that allowed me to be so appreciative of just the experience I was in, the moment I was in, as I was, hiking up the mountain or going down, or sitting there, or just, walking around and absorbing, this beautiful place. So at the end, I would say that leaving me behind, right? Like when I started about talking about this friend that kind of just left, wasn't such a bad thing. It actually allowed me to experience something that I might not have done if I was still, with him or these other Americans that, we wound up, running into at the hotel. So, and once I left that, I just had this amazing sense of confidence. Like, I want to do it again. I want to come back, right? And that will be for another day. Again, this was one of my stories that I talked about, but I hope that you continue listening in and continue watching my my videos, because there's more to come, and of course, supporting me and buying the book, so you could learn more and be, just continue learning about, different stories and different encounters that I have. So again, thank you, and write comments and ask me questions. I would love to continue having these conversations.